Hey there, everybody, and welcome. Today, as promised, we are going to do a mock advertisement using 3D in Substance Stager. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to dive right in with this with a very blank file and start producing our own Substance Stager document. I'm going to hit Create New here at the top corner. In Create New, you're going to be greeted with the interface. The interface, you will see the Cartesian grid in which you can hold your Alt key and move your left mouse button to rotate around an object, your middle mouse button and Alt to move up and down for the object, and the right mouse button, if you hold it down with the Alt key, again, you will zoom in and out. So Alt plus left, Alt plus middle scroll wheel push down, and Alt plus right will allow you to kind of navigate. We have a lot of different ways to kind of explore this interface, but we can see we have a ton of import to scene options listed here. We have a design tab and a render tab. We'll get to that one a little bit later. We have all of our starter assets, which you're welcome to use. This includes models, different materials, different types of lighting setup, and then different types of images that you can use for your background. We're going to learn all of these things as we go today. At the bottom here, you have what's called bins, which is very similar to Premiere Pro. We also have different materials that are currently in the project. Right now we have none. And then an animation timeline if you wish to do some animation. On the right-hand side, we have our library. This is going to contain everything that is currently in the scene. Right now it's pretty empty because the environment hasn't been populated yet. So as we add models and different elements to this scene, this will get bigger. And when you select each thing on the list, it will change the editing possibilities that you might have. We can access things like the ground plane, the background, and even the lights and the way that the environment is lit through these different lists. So again, really quick, easy way to do this. We have the ability to add different cameras and frame different selections. So definitely look up here for your camera menu. Adding cameras is a really nice way to kind of almost bookmark different things. And then the final thing is the render settings. If we click this, this will give you kind of an idea of what you're rendering and the presets that you can render in. We're going to keep it pretty default for now. That's your basic interface. It's not meant to be terribly hard or terribly challenging, again, for us to kind of navigate. So let's dive right into it. We're going to create our own brand of creative juice. I have a whole asset folder that I will be providing of goodies, including a previous semester's version of this where you can play around. I have different backgrounds, different patterns, some fun logos that we use here in SVAD. And if I click in here, I even downloaded a little which is kind of fun, a little orange from the free Adobe Stock materials. So we're going to play with that a little bit as well. So let's get going. The first thing we're going to kind of start with is we're going to create ourselves our juice box. So we can create various models. Again, you can use your own model to do that. If you have your own, you can do File, Import, 3D Model. For our sake and for sake of ease of use, we're going to stick to either the juice box or the pour box. I kind of like the juice box personally. I think it's a little more fun. So we're going to drop this juice box in. Immediately you're greeted with this GUI. Now this GUI from the start will have all the different move tools. If you click on these little squares, you'll have ways to kind of like edit it and shrink it and kind of pull it up and down. If you want to do these individually, it would be W. W will get you your move tool. E will get you your rotate tool. And then R will get you your scale tool. And the way these tools work is the center element moves it uniformly. And then right now you'll notice that the top and side move it uniformly as well. This is mainly because we have everything locked, which I'll show you in a second. Because here we've added two pieces of a model. We have our straw, or tube mesh as they call it, and then a body. And when I click on each of those, you'll notice the bottom part kind of flickers. We're going to go to transform, and you'll see here in scale that those were locked down. So if I really wanted to constrain the proportions and make a weird looking juice box, I could. Honestly, I can keep it locked. I just wanted to show you what that did. We even have a size function, so if we want to make it true to size, it's really important. And if I hit W again, I'm going to select the folder that they're all in, so I move them together. If I want to drop this onto the ground, I would just use this move to ground button. Boop. And it goes straight onto the ground for us, which is a really nice kind of fun way to do this. All right, now that we have this, let's play a little bit with our setup. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to add maybe that orange element. So I'm going to go to File, New, Import Model. And here in this Creative Juice folder, you can see I have a Substance Stager kind of file. It's asking me import settings. We're going to keep things default. We're going to just pull this in and we get this lovely already textured orange from, again, Adobe Stock. Good for Adobe Stock for providing so many free resources for this one. And we're going to just make sure things are touching, and we're going to start thinking about our compositional framing. So I kind of like this. Anytime I'm dealing with 3D, I do want to see a little bit of the dimensionality. Just by making a product flat, why have a 3D model? So again, we have a 3D model. Let's kind of play with that. And we can even then go and open up things like the straw and, play with kind of the settings in there as well. So things are looking really, really good. What else can we add? Where else can we go? We're going to kind of scroll down and just look at all the different options. You can see we can add crumpled cloth. So if you wanted to add like a crumpled t-shirt, sunglasses, tablets, different bags, you can see you get quite a bit of free options to kind of start with. We can add a banana if our juice maybe had a banana. We're going to go ahead and add one of the splashes, which are always fun. It just gives it a little dynamic way to kind of move. And we're going to move this in. And I'm going to drop that to the ground too. I just want to make sure that any areas that are penetrated with one another, I kind of just hide that slightly. And I'm going to use my scroll wheel just to kind of push this back because I need some room for my text eventually as well. And we'll play with that a little later. So now that I have the basic setup, let's start thinking about texturing. The easiest way to texture something is using a material. And if we go to our materials tab and we scroll down, you can see we have quite a bit of different types of liquid materials in here. We also have things like flooring materials, plastic, gloss paint, you name it, you can probably find it. So again, this plastic material, if I want to drag it onto that tube mesh, I could go ahead and do that, and that's going to put that material on the straw. Now, if you're having trouble, again, dropping it onto the scene, I suggest just dropping it into the drop-down menu here. Now, it looks really bad, but I'm going to go ahead and turn on my quick render mode up here next to the word ray tracing. When I do that, you see it renders actually pretty nicely. This is just more of a preview mode, so don't fret as we go. We have that orange shiny texture, which is kind of fun. But we're going to go back up to our liquids, and we're going to find some fun liquids. So let's scroll. There's some water. And maybe we'll do a milk texture. Now, I don't want white, so I'm going to use my material tab underneath that splash and scroll down. And I'm going to navigate to the base color. I'm going to then go through and play with this. You can even sample colors. So if you want to sample kind of that color orange, you can. You'll notice that it's still not changing color. It depends on the actual texture. So what I like to do with stuff like this is I just like to kind of, adjust, play with, and, not every shader is going to work right off the bat. This one has a coat color. And, I go through, and if I'm noticing that things can't essentially get a color put onto them, I don't dwell on that too often. So in case like this one, for instance, it's like, okay, we're not really getting anything. We will maybe switch it over to water. And let's see what we do when we change the base of the water. And then we're going to hit a quick ray trace. Again, still not getting that color on these specific elements. And this is most likely due to the opacity. So, I'm going to start kind of playing around with some of the different specular options, the different material options for that water as we go. And this is called the material map. So we have things like normal, which is the bumpiness, height, which is the displacement, anastropy, which is kind of like another variation of shine. We have emission. Again, all of these things, you can kind of fiddle around with. But, the idea is to kind of go through and adjust. And you'll notice as I adjust, it starts changing things pretty nicely. But I'm still not getting that color. So, again, we're going to we're going to continue to kind of go through this and play with this splash type material just so we can get, again, maybe a more solid surface. There's the orange. Must have been the metallic here. So the metallic function was causing it to be a little off. And then we'll kind of play with that just a little bit more. So again, roughness all the way to 1. Metallic, that's looking pretty good. We'll hit a quick render. And we kind of have a juice like look to it. Is it, exactly what we want yet? I don't know. I kind of want to play with that opacity a little bit as well. And that code opacity, maybe I can turn that down too, just to kind of dull it. And just be aware, like I'm saying, if you don't keep doing your little preview, you may not notice many changes. So I have a fast computer. I can actually keep my preview on as we're going. And I can kind of go through and just play with the different functions, and it will kind of pre-render it for me. If you don't have a fast computer, you just want to keep turning that off and kind of cycling through it. So we're getting to a point where this is pretty basic, but for demo's sake, it works. And we want to go to our juice box. So in our juice box, we have the tube, which we've already dealt with the plastic, and then the body mesh. And right now my body of this is gray. It's default. If we want to change this, again, we can go to the base color and we can edit this. So if we want to make it like a fun yellow, again, pretty easy, but I want to add some decals to it. So I'm going to place the image on the model. And when I do that, I'm going to go and I'm going to find my SVAD asset and I'm going to hit OK. And immediately, if I click and drag, and this is one that, again, depending on the size of the asset can be a little funky, but I'm going to go ahead and kind of center that and then go to transform. And we want to play a little bit with the scaling of this material. So again, if I take the scale down a little bit and kind of place it in the center, and I'm going to turn, again, if you're getting slowness, you can just turn that off. I kind of dig that. That's kind of fun. I like where that's at. So I have the ability to make this shiny or less shiny. So again, if I crank these numbers up, right now we don't really have any lights, but I could make that super shiny. But I'm going to put that right in the middle. And then I have another decal that I want to add. So I'm going to go back into kind of my material. So select that, go back to the body mesh, add a new material. And I have this little fun kind of SVAD one that, though we may not see it if we put it behind, you could like drag behind, but I'm going to take this and I'm going to just kind of put it here. And we actually give out little beer mugs sometimes for swag here at SVAD for these. So this was done by a former student, very talented student. So thank you, Juan, for doing these. All right. So now that we have everything looking pretty good, I'm still not loving that yellow. So how can we kind of change up the yellow, add a little more bumpiness to it? And I think by adding some cardboard. So I'm going to search for cardboard. And I have pristine cardboard, which sounds like it's up my alley. I'm going to drag that to the body texture, and that will replace it. Again, it's a bit intense, but don't worry. We're going to add a pattern on top of this. So I'm going to add another decal. And I have these really fun kind of repeatable patterns. So this one has some scale variety. I don't want this as a decal, so I'm going to change the placement to fill. And I'm going to drag this under the graphics again. And I'm going to do a repeat on this to kind of pull this down. Things are looking pretty good. Again, we have the ability to kind of mirror and kind of play with some of the settings here. And we can even turn the opacity down on this a little bit as well. So we're getting there. We're losing some contrast though. So again, we continue to keep building. Let's see. We can add, let's add another shape on this. So let's do new, and let's see if maybe we can add this drip. We'll just scale this in a little bit. And then again, I'm just working that into place. Not sure I'm a huge fan of the pattern just yet. So again, I may want to play with this pattern just slightly. I'm losing my logo a little bit. Not what I really want, but we'll play with it. Maybe we'll change it back to a decal, and maybe we'll hit delete. Maybe we don't want that pattern. Maybe we can keep it kind of organic like we see it here. So again, if I go through, you can see I have a lot of different gradients. I can even drag these on. If I have a blank image as well, if I want to, again, put kind of a flat image there, I can. But I'm kind of liking where this is at. Let's get a quick render. I want to play with the opacity of that orange just a little bit more. Again, not to go into too much detail. Obviously, this is meant to be a quicker tutorial for you all, but I want to show you all the things that obviously this can do. Let's give that a shot. Yeah, a little bit better. And maybe we'll lighten that juice box, the cardboard texture a little bit. So the great thing about these textures is we have the ability to kind of adjust and change. So if we want to pull in that yellow a little bit, or even some of this orange, we can, just to kind of start pulling it aesthetically on the same. So we have the ability to change the waves. There is a ripping mode, which is pretty cool. A fold amount, again, dirt, things we probably don't want to put on an advertisement, but I'm kind of liking what I have here. We'll try the other decal just to see. So we already did that one. Let's go to this next one here, and let's see if we can play with the fill here and what this will give us. Still really visually busy, right? Something we could do though is create a side texture here. So I'm going to kind of drag this to the side, and I'm going to move this kind of here, and this is where I'm going to unlock my scale. So now that I've unlocked my scale, you can see I can kind of start to stretch this in various ways. So if I stretch it obviously up and down, this is going to give me control, you can see, there we go, of my image, and just get it right into place. I like that. I kind of dig that. All right, so the side is going to have its own color. Now we're not going to see the back, so I'm not going to worry as much about that, but this has a little bit more kind of pizzazz to it. I dig it. All right. So again, nothing looks great without lighting. So I'm going to scroll down, and I want you to go down to where you see kind of lighting with backgrounds. And so we have kind of urban lighting. This will start getting us shadows and better looking lighting. We can do like an outdoor lighting, a background lighting, kind of beach lighting, depending on where we decide to put our image. And so I suggest going through here and just selecting and seeing kind of what shadows cast where. This is one of those. This is like a studio light. You're going to see immediately, you're going to just get a lot of nice options. And you get a little color cast, which is nice as well. So again, things are looking pretty good. Our juice box is coming together. We could play with this all day long, but we're going to just kind of go through, and I think I'm going to make it a little whiter to be cleaner here. There we go. And then I'm going to go and grab that logo. Just center it just a little bit more, and maybe scale it down just a little bit more. Perfect. Again, we can scale this like that and kind of drag it into place where we see fit. Cool. All right. All right, so now that we have kind of our juice box ready to go, we're going to give it some space to the side. Let's go ahead and add a background. So I can go to backgrounds here, and I could really add any of these backgrounds. For instance, the stone beach, you're going to see that, you know, it's all right. It doesn't look amazing, but there is a match image button that you can use. So if we hit the match image button and let it do its magic, it's going to actually put everything in place on this. Now, this image, again, doesn't, you know, look exactly the way we want it. So I want to change my background image. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this image, and I'm going to go to select a file using the folder icon. And this one feels more juice-like. So I'm going to hit this image and hit match image, let it run its Adobe magic, and it's going to simulate even the outdoor sunlight aspect of our image as well. So the only changes I really need to make here is I need to make this, I think, 1920 by 1080. So I'm going to just type that, and I'm going to just kind of pull these up and kind of get them in place here. So immediately, if I hit a quick render, let's take a look. I'm starting to get a really lovely kind of test render here. Very organic, very nice, very fun. All right, the final thing I could do, it's not a requirement, is I could put some 3D text in here. So if I wanted to kind of drag some 3D text and just drag it into place, hit R for rotate. I love the little degrees it gives you there. And then maybe we'll do some scale here with the that R key again. Maybe we'll do the word yum or something. So I'm going to double click on that, and I'm going to go and look at my object and type the word yum. And that's looking pretty good. Let's change the font. We get all sorts of Adobe fonts here. That's kind of fun. I like that. Cool. We can change the bevel. If you want to activate this, you just kind of put the bevel in. There we go. We're getting somewhere. And then we're going to go to the shader of this. What kind of shaders can we put on this? I kind of want to see what that red car gloss paint looks like. So I like that, but I do want to make it a little more orange. So I'm going to select that orange, and then we're going to hit a quick render just to see what that looks like. So pretty fun. Maybe we go a little more orangish red. Awesome. And we're going to play a little bit with the placement of this by rotating it. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. Awesome. So at this stage, we're ready to kind of start playing with the render. So we can do a couple things. When we open up and we click on the camera that was created when we put the background in, we could play with things like the focal length, obviously, to scale things in. We can even turn on a depth of field if we really wanted to kind of click and focus on certain areas. This is a really fun way to do it. So if I hit set focus point and I click on the creative juice, when I blur things, it's actually going to blur everything around it to be a lot blurrier. So you can see, I'm going to just exaggerate this so you can see, but you see it keeps the creative juice in focus. So you can do depth of field in here. It is a little bit computer intensive and whatnot. But I am really liking what this looks like. So what we're going to do is, I think we're good to go. We're going to go over to our render tab, and we're going to set up our render. So I'm going to do high render and keep everything default. And I'm going to make sure it's called juice. And we'll put this in our creative juice folder in our sake. And we're going to make this, why not? Why not make it a PSD? So we're going to let this render and go through. Now, depending how much transparency and how much other stuff that you have in here, this could take anywhere from a couple of seconds to a couple of minutes. In this particular case, it has a countdown clock of roughly about a minute. So again, not terribly bad, but again, I have a fast computer, and things like this could take longer on your machine. So just make sure that you're giving yourself enough time to kind of knock this out and play with that. Now, while this is happening, I'm going to actually go ahead and open Photoshop on my computer and have it up and running. Again, we have about 43 seconds for this render, so I can start doing some more call to action. So we'll let that boot up in the background, and we're almost done. You can see it's getting pretty nice here, and Photoshop has booted up. About 36 seconds left. Again, quick and easy. Have fun with it. Really play around with textures. Think, of scale and color palette, and don't overly bump your textures. You notice how this is just very subtle. Play with those materials. Really have some fun with them as you get to go and kind of render this. So about 20 seconds left here, a little under, 72% done. The more you let it run in this particular case, the more it's going to be crispier for you. And so you'll see also the PSD will bring in some good color information as well. So 80%, almost there. For almost the longest 4 seconds, 90. There we go. Okay, so right now it's saving as a PSD. We're done. The render has finished and saved. I'm going to save my my file out to call Matt's Creative. And we're going to save this out just to have a backup, and I'll go ahead and provide that for you all as well. So now that that's kind of saving in the background, I can go ahead and open my Photoshop file. So what this is going to do is a couple really cool things. One, it's going to give me the rendered image, but it's also going to give me the rendered image without the background, which is huge. Like, what if your client doesn't like that background? So saving it as a PSD will do that, and it will bring over the shadows, which is pretty amazing. So if you want to change this out, and for instance, you want to take a background color and, you know, start kind of having some fun with this, we can. And maybe we'll add, oh gosh, it's been a hot minute. Let's do some gradient overlays here. So we'll do maybe like a radial gradient overlay. We could do yellow with that. In our case, we'll probably want to set this to kind of multiply or screen. Screen's a bit intense. This is like the world's least intense overlay. There we go. Love it. So again, if I don't like this background, I can change it, which is really, really awesome. All right, so let's play with this. Let's add a couple more call to actions. So again, I have just a couple things in here I want to drop in. I have a call to action, so I'm going to copy that in. And in this case, I guess I did not remove my background. Not a big deal. So again, we know with the power of Photoshop, we can hit the little remove background button, give it a few seconds and change. Gosh, bless Photoshop, right? And we're going to scale this up and maybe give it kind of a fun dapper tilt. Again, you're thinking of scale. So in this case, we have a lot of big things. I'm going to put kind of my scale out this way. That's looking pretty cool. I dig it. Very, very neat. We do have additional layers, so it does give you ways to kind of grab masks. Same with the depth of field layer. Again, you could do depth of field in Photoshop using the lens filter, which is really cool. But in this case, we don't have an immense amount of depth. But again, I'm liking this a lot more than my kind of standard image that I had here. So this is looking a lot nicer. I'm going to go ahead and add, I think, though, a couple other layers to this. I think I'm going to add a drop shadow. When you're using drop shadow, do not just put like 100% black drop shadow. My recommendation is to actually go and like choose the background and just go a little darker than your background. So not black, but just toward it. And then lower your drop shadow to somewhere in the 30 to 40% range. That's just going to give you a nice little element. One thing I would avoid, and a lot of you do this, is I would avoid putting strokes around things. Strokes tend to look a little funky and a little clip art like. So again, instead of a stroke, ask yourself, okay, could I do a drop shadow? Could I do an inner shadow? Is there something else I could do? A bevel and emboss, for instance, could look, you know, just to get a little bit of highlights here and a little more dimensionality could look really, really nice. So at this point, this is looking pretty good for my advertisement. We could add more text, but again, we want to kind of think of our negative space and think about our layout. And you can see in a matter of just a couple minutes here, we've created a really nice product advertisement. So at this point, I would do a save as copy. I would save this out. I believe I have you saving it as a JPEG, and we're going to call it, I'll just call it Dombrowski Final, and hit OK, and then that's good to go and upload to your web course. All right, everybody, hopefully this gave you a quick overview of the project and kind of different ways that you could play around with this and really start to infuse 3D in your own package design or animation or, you know, product layout or even mock-ups as you go. All right, everybody, hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in class.